Joining us. This is a Give Your Productivity and Energy Boost webinar, and it's really geared towards companies that are operating on kind of an older technology platform like SL or GP. So what we're going to do is kind of show you an orientation to kind of first SVA and who we are, the kind of products that we represent, why we chose to represent Acumatica, and we'll spend most of the time in the software going through exactly how you can boost your productivity in Acumatica. So what we're seeing a lot of our customers doing, the kinds of things that it's allowing you to streamline and save time in terms of reducing manual entry and manual procedures. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So again, starting off with, well, who are we? So we're SVA Consulting. Our motto is to serve people better, and we define our success by our client success. We have been in business for over 30 years. During that time, we have over 300 ERP implementations. As you can see, we have lots of customers on Great Plains, lots of customers on GP. And since then, we've evolved over the last 10 years or more to being an Acumatica VAR or value-added reseller. And we'll go through in the next few slides why we chose Acumatica and why we pivoted from GP and the Great Plains solution. Our Acumatica client base is very strong at this point, and we have over 94% customer satisfaction rate as well. Okay, so what did we, who is Acumatica and kind of what we're seeing? What we're seeing and why we pivoted again to Acumatica are things like, again, lots of routine tasks have become laborious. So we're seeing, the platform isn't letting people, auto-calculate calculations like deferred revenue or allocations. That month-end process is very, very long and very error-prone. The other thing we're seeing is lots of disparate systems, right? And so sometimes the ERP has kind of limited depth and breadth, and so you have to bring on these add-ons and then maintain those add-on systems and then integrate those as well. That also leads to a lot of laborious processes, and then also error-prone as well, because you have to hand key all that data. So again, this is a lot of what we're seeing, and the key thing is it's hard to make decisions at the speed of the business. So, a limited financial structure means that it's hard to segment and see your data by business unit or geography. If you have to curate, data every month to see your financials, you're not getting that real time, and it's tough to make those decisions. Well, why are all these things happening, and why are we seeing those? The root cause is really this outdated technology footprint. And so what does this mean? It means that, it hasn't evolved with this business. So rigid chart of accounts, again, means that you can't see the data by the key dimensions that you want to see it in. Not an open API framework means that it's hard to integrate with all those disparate systems. And the biggest problem is this lack of technology roadmap. And so really a lack of investment in the software itself. And so, why did we pick Acumatica, and who is Acumatica? So, we really felt like our customers deserved better, and we worked hard to find the right solution to serve the customers. So who is Acumatica? Acumatica is the fastest growing ERP company. So they fly a little bit under the radar in that there's actually tens of thousands of implementations of Acumatica across the globe. Some of them are OEM'd under different names like MYOB or Lexware. And so, the software of Acumatica has actually been around quite a long time. And as you can see, they're headquartered in Seattle, right down the street from Microsoft. And there are a lot of Microsoft integrations across the platform as well. So really an international company headquartered in Seattle, but lots of support resources across the United States, which is also one of the things we like about the software in terms of its excellent support team and ability to access them quickly and get answers. So what we really like about the platform is the future-proof technology. So how it works is there's a technology stack that's not rooted in a proprietary framework. So it uses things like open API, C#. It takes these industry standards, and that's the platform by which it's built. On top of that, we started to get into a lot of optimization tools. Things like single sign-on, multi-tenancy, multi-language, very robust role-based security with out-of-the-box roles and the ability to customize them as well. The low-code, no-code framework really lets you add things like attributes to vendors, attributes to customers. It lets you segment the data the way that you want without having to use a developer to go in and make the customization. You can do that all through the UI, and I'll show you some of those in the software as well. Very easy to integrate. So because it's built on those industry standards, it can consume flat files if needed. It can also connect it directly in real-time data with Open API framework. We'll also show you the mobile app as well, and then lots of reporting and analytics, which you'll see. So all of these tools, all of these optimization tools are available across all of the industry editions and the modules as well. And in terms of that breadth, on the right, we have these best-in-class modules, and all of those modules, again, they inherit all of the things in that cloud platform. So you'll see this financial management, you'll see some customer management. It also has a payroll module, project accounting, and then field service as well. On the left, we have these industry editions. So robust manufacturing, so bills of material, configuration, production planning, MRP. The distribution edition includes things like sales orders to shipment, retail commerce edition, and then construction. So construction accounting, things like RFIs and change orders and such, all of that's included in that edition. And then of course, kind of the classic GL banking, AP and AR business edition. On top of that, and kind of enabled and empowered by that technology stack, are all of these connected applications. So we think big e-commerce, we have a big commerce connector that's built into the software. And so you don't have to manage all of that data manually. Shipping and logistics, there's native connectors to things like FedEx or UPS or other carriers as well. So, native connectors to things like Avalara. So it really makes your business pretty easy to use and easy to maintain with Acumatica. The other thing that we like are the scalability. So Acumatica is not it's not licensed based on a named user, rather it's a consumption-based licensing model. So that invites a lot of people into the software to either see the views or dashboards for AP approval, for example. So you don't have to think about, okay, can we afford another license for this new person? Rather, you can invite everyone in the software. We've also seen things like you can use the security rights and have things like warehouses or 3PLs in the software as well, and use the robust security rights to prune exactly what they should see. The other thing we like is the flexible deployment options. So Acumatica offers a SaaS deployment option, and with that SaaS hosted on AWS comes automated backups and all the security that goes along with that, all the geo redundancy, but you can also choose to host it in private cloud as well. So you have that flexibility. And if you choose one and decide to move, you have that flexibility as well. The other thing we like is that you can pick when you upgrade. So you can join what's called an always current program, and then you can upgrade on an annual or semi-annual basis. Otherwise, you can choose when you upgrade, and you get to pick your own upgrade schedule. And this is that latter option is really helpful for folks who maybe have some compliance regulations or lots of customizations, lots of complexity in their business. So again, we like the flexibility that enables. Okay. And where is Acumatica in the industry? So we talked about Acumatica as the fastest growing ERP software. G2 Crowd is a rating system that's rated not by industry analysts, but by business users. And so when business users rate Acumatica, they rated best usability, and just this past winter, best leader in mid-market ERP. And so you see, as rated by users, it's rated very strongly. On the bottom right, you see this Net Promoter Score. That's a pretty high score in the market. So our competitors have about 16 or sometimes negative scores. What that score is it's how likely you are to, as a user, recommend that software to a friend or colleague, right? And so we're seeing very high Net Promoter Scores across the system, meaning that people really like it, they find it easy to use. And then again, this 97% Acumatica support satisfaction score, we mentioned that a little bit in the introduction to Acumatica. That's a pretty high score in terms of, if there's an issue, if there's a question, Acumatica as a company is highly responsive to those. All right, so let's get into the software itself. Okay, so Acumatica Each client is provisioned what's called an instance. So that's really the URL at the top here. And it's browser agnostic. So that means that I'm using Chrome today, but I could certainly be using Microsoft, Explorer or any other type of browser that's supported. So pretty easy to access. If you want to access it on your mobile phone, there is an app that you'll see in a few minutes. You can just download it through Android or Apple. Okay, so when I log in, my login is linked to some user rights. And so when I log in, I'm logged in as an admin, but I could certainly be logged in as something like an AP clerk or an AR clerk. And what that role allows me to do is basically prune what kind of access I have. So when I log in, I'm presented with the controller dashboard. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. This controller dashboard is out of the box, and I can modify it and customize it if I'd like. So Acumatica includes out-of-the-box dashboards, again, for the controller, the AR clerk, the AP clerk, and then other industry editions have specific dashboards as well, already included. And so what you can see here is this real-time data tells me when it was updated. And behind this is all the data that comprised all of that. So you can see all of these widgets that kind of show how many customers are in credit hold, my total AP amount. So kind of things that as a controller, the information that I'm looking for, right? I'll scroll down so you can see the types of views that you can have in a dashboard like this. So I can have a donut chart, I can have, a bar graph, I can have a line graph. And so you can see the types of things that I can do. If I hit design and just add a new widget, the types of widgets I can add are things like, a data table. So if I want to see, present a table of data, maybe I want to put some conditional formatting on that, I can certainly do that in here as well. I can have headers, some KPIs. If I want to embed a Power BI tile in the system, I can do that as well. So lots of different options I have. If I want to change or modify this kind of gets into some of the low code, no code components. So if I want to see, maybe I want to change some of the components here, I just hit that pencil icon and you can see it, I can determine what screen this is pulling from. I can even tell it exactly how often I want it to refresh that data. And then maybe I want to change the color to something else, right? I can just change that here, and I can also change the icon, but if I want to see it as a scorecard or a meter, and I can change the title here. So really this is designed to let the user really dictate and choose exactly how they want to see and curate and personalize their view. Great. So next we'll kind of drill into one of these KPIs so that you can see kind of exactly how this is done. So I'm going to get out of the design mode here so you can see that color changed. And I'm going to drill into open purchase orders and see exactly where that 15 came from. So when I click on that 15, what this takes me to is a generic inquiry. In other systems, it's known as a smart list or a quick query. And what this does is it gives me a record count on the bottom left here, and it says, okay, these are the 15 purchase orders that are open, right? And so it's a way for me to see that data. A few things to note here. So one thing is that this purchase order, each line is a PO, has an attachment. And so I can have attachments to every single transaction in the system and every record. So in this example, I have a purchase order attachment here. It looks like this is my Thermo Fisher invoice. So I can open that and take a peek, and there it is. So in a way, Acumatica is also, it helps you with your document management in that I can attach files to transactions and to any record as well. The other thing it does is take notes, right? So I have a note here to review the receipt amount. And so I can add internal notes to colleagues in here as well. This generic inquiry, I'm going to actually pop over here so you can see all the records. This is, again, like the smart list. It's a way to view all of your data. And so this is showing me all my purchase order records. I have over 1,600 records. You can see that record count on the bottom. A few things that I can do here. So one of them is I can export it to Excel. And when I export this list to Excel, I can go ahead and do my conditional formatting, do all my calculations or formulas in Excel. And then I can actually log into Acumatica from Excel and have it refresh the data live from Acumatica. And that allows me to kind of keep doing my analysis in Excel if I'd like to, without having to pull down the data again and redo my analysis. The other thing is that there's a lot I can do within this tool as well. So if I want to see, status over here, I can just drag and drop these. I can move the order number over here as well. The other thing I can see is the different types of columns that I have available. So perhaps, I don't want to see things like, the unbilled quantity. I can just move that guy over here. Maybe I do want to see the branch that this is for. Maybe I want to see the promise on date. I can move that to the right and I hit OK. And now you see that promise on date here as well. All of these changes are personal to my user. So I'm not going to be disrupting my colleagues' views when I do this. They're all just central to me. The other thing that it does is, I can filter by date here. So, I can see everything from this month. I can filter within a date range. There's also dynamic filters as well. Maybe I want to see everything that is year start to year end, and I hit OK. And now it's just showing me year start to year end. Maybe I can do that by month or period. Maybe I can do that by quarter. The nice thing there is that I don't have to go in when that quarter changes and readjust those dates. Those are dynamic filters. If I like this filter and I want to save it for future use, I can just hit save and save POs this year. And if I want to share this view with my colleagues, I can just check this share configuration button. And I can hit OK. And now you see here on the top that we added this view for POs this year. Also, all of the kind of just classic sorting and stuff is available here. I can filter by greater than or less than, right? So all of the ability to kind of drill down to the data that you want to see is there. The other nice thing that Acumatica has added, and they continue to add this throughout the modules, is what's called the side panel. So over here, I have a side panel. And if I just click on that, so what this is doing is this is taking this PO for this vendor, so Thermo Fisher, and it's telling me all the data for that vendor. So let me make this a little bit bigger. So it's telling me that vendor balance, how much is overdue, all the bills and adjustments throughout time, right, for this vendor. And I can drill into that and see all that detail, the payment history. If I wanted to see this exact purchase order without opening it up, I certainly can by just clicking on this purchase order icon. And this will expose that as well. So here's my purchase order, and I can see I've got 3 lines on the purchase order. So this is just a nice way for me to kind of see the detail without having to drill down. So fewer clicks, right? If I want to see that vendor record, see how that record was set up, maybe make a few changes. If I have the right security rights, I can certainly do that by clicking that here. Okay, so let's jump out of this. So this generic inquiry tool, again, is available throughout the system. Lots of good things in here. Again, you can export to Excel, you can modify the columns and make it look the way that you'd like. All right. So back to our dashboard, I want to show you a few other features in terms of usability in the system that a lot of our customers really like. So first one is this universal search feature. So if I want to find, a page that I'm looking for, maybe I can't find it, can't find where that allocations page is. If I just type in allocation, it will in this list give me all the menu items that meet that profile, right? And so then I can, I can find them in here and find the allocations page pretty easily. The other thing I can do, if let's say I get a number, someone calls me, I'm not sure if they're in the system or not, I can type in that number here, and in transactions and profiles, it can also search by field within a record. So you can maintain what's called contacts in Acumatica, and they can be related to things like business accounts, which are customers or vendors. And so here, Carla Smith, it looks like I do have her number logged in here. And so I can see, that's whose number that was. Here's her email. She's related to the Lab Depot. And so it's just a nice way for me to kind of find the information that I'm looking for. The other thing that you can do is search for, you saw that we could have attachments. I'm going to jump over here and search by files. So if I have some naming conventions in the file attachments that I have, here's, a bill, maybe that I was looking for, and I knew it was 112. And here's the PDF for that bill, and I can see exactly what that was related to. So that's a nice feature as well, in that you can search for all the attachments that you have if you name them appropriately. The other nice thing that really comes in terms of usability and ability to learn the system, we'll go back to applications, is the help topic. So the help topics are very, very robust here. And so you can see, I'll just kind of go into one really quick. This is telling me everything about allocations that I'd like to know. And, it has a form reference page as well. So I can see everything that, maybe if I don't know what a term means, for example, I can look that up in the help documentation. So Acumatica has very good help documentation, which is kind of the first step in answering lots of questions. The other thing that you can do is if I click this home button here, is you can also have your own documentation. So Acumatica has a wiki that you can customize. So you can have your own kind of tile here with your custom work instructions that you create through the UI here, and create your own wiki. So that's available to you as well. Okay. All right, so we went through the kind of the navigation. Let's get into kind of the financial modules as well. So first I'll show you that, so this is what the module menu looks like. So we have the financial module, and you'll notice these stars here as well. So again, kind of consistent with the personalization theme. This star means that it's a favorite. And so if I star journal transactions, that means that it's become a favorite menu item. And now I can see it in my favorites tab here. So I have all these favorites. So it's a nice way to kind of easily go to the page that you're looking for. All right. So getting back into the financial module, just kind of show you a few things in terms of how to access the data and ease and ability to get the data. So let's just kind of start by showing you a profit and loss report. And so if I run this report, and also this can have, I can edit this report. What this does is it obviously just shows me a pretty basic P&L report. A few things I want to point out. So this tree icon here is what's called unit sets. And so this kind of gets into some of the pain points we talked about in terms of, being able to analyze financial data by different dimensions. Acumatica has a natural account and then sub-account segments as well. So in my sub-account segment, I have department. And, I've taken kind of different departments and grouped them under different areas. So my back office operations, I have corporate admin and finance, for example. For legal, I have, quality and R&D, for example. And what this does is this kind of groups these different divisions within each department. And so I can view that data and see exactly, okay, what's happening for that division, or I can see it across all my departments. And so again, this allows me to see a P&L, for example, by finance or by marketing. The other nice thing about this report is that I can, if I go to any blue here is a hyperlink, and it's a drill down. So if I want to see what exactly transpired for that utilities line, I can see these are in the GL details that comprise that line. And maybe I want to see that transaction. So I can click on this further and see, okay, this actually was a general ledger transaction that came from the AP module. Maybe I want to see exactly where that came from. So I click on that reference number and I can see, okay, this is a bill, right, to Mid-City Utilities. And I can see it has an attachment on that. And now I can see here's the invoice for that. So really, it has the ability to, run financial reports, drill down all the way to the invoice, right, from which that came. Okay. Just point out a few things in terms of the financial module as well. So there are allocations that you can set up in the system to run on a schedule if you'd like. Same with recurring transactions. So if I have the same transaction every month, I can set that to run on a schedule. So let's say I have, the same insurance expense every single month. I can have this run daily, weekly, monthly, so I can kind of specify when it starts, when it ends, and then I can see all the generated transactions or documents rather that came from that recurring transaction. So again, and just in terms of optimization and usability, ability to automate kind of manual tasks, this is a nice screen that allows you to do that. In terms of segregation of duties, there is the ability to create transactions and have those route for approval. You can also have AP bills route for approval. So lots of transactions in the system can route for approval. And you'll see these in a minute with the payables module as well, where we will route an AP bill for approval. Before we get into that, just going to show you really quick the banking module and some of the optimization there. So we've heard lots of complaints in terms of bank reconciliation. hard to reconcile transactions from your bank against transactions in your ERP. So Acumatica is actually set up for that pretty well. So, you can import bank transactions in this screen here. And once you get that import in, you can either export that from your bank. Once you get that in, you can start to compare what those look like. So I'll just kind of show you really quick. Let's say we got all those transactions in. On the left side are all my bank transactions, and on the right, it's trying to match it to a transaction in Acumatica. So if I click on a line here, you can see, okay, so this amount was $2,100, and it found that amount and matched that date, right? So it's kind of going through and trying to match and identify and reconcile all of those transactions. If I can do this one by one, or I can set this to auto match it. I can also have settings to teach the system how to match the transactions between the bank and Acumatica. And so I can set, days before bank transaction date, days after. I can assign different weights and probabilities to different components of it. And so this really makes bank reconciliation a lot easier. And what we've noticed is that customers actually do bank reconciliation more often, more frequent than once a month, because it is so easy to do. Probably the hardest part of this is getting the transactions in the system. So again, you can export them manually from your bank, import them to Acumatica. Acumatica also has this bank feeds feature here, which is really a data aggregator. So what this does, this plaid connector, allows you to connect to over 10,000 banks across the US and Canada, and bring in those account transactions and those account details. And so what you do is you log into the bank through this connector, and then you can set those transactions to run either on a schedule or manually, right? And so I won't go through the process of logging into my Chase bank account here, but you can see that I can log in and then set this on a schedule, and then I don't have to bring in those transactions manually. That will just happen automatically for me. Few other things to mention in the banking module are that the payment methods, you can pay via ACH, you can pay via credit card. Acumatica has the ability to connect to things like authorize.net if you want to accept customer payments via credit card. All of that is native functionality and already set up in the system. Okay, so let's pop into AP really quick. I'll just show you kind of the vendor record and what that looks like. Let's go to Century. Here we go. So a lot of the functionality on the vendor record is similar to what's available on the customer record. So a few things to note here. I just have kind of classic account name, address, the line. One of the nice things, again, you saw that contact earlier in the search feature. So I have this, Carla listed as a primary contact. So I can maintain contacts, many contacts for a vendor. If I go to this contact tab, I can maintain, and designate their title, right? You don't need the CRM module for that. That comes right out of the box. And it's a nice way to default a lot of the vendor information. A few things to note here. This one isn't a 1099 vendor, but I can track and log 1099 activity in Acumatica. And it can actually, if I go to the menu here, create that e-file that you would then submit. So it doesn't submit it for you, but it does all the work of tracking and creating that e-file for you to submit. So it does make 1099 processing quite a bit easier and streamlined. A few other things to note, everything like all the, the terms and such, kind of the classic vendor record, all of that, is logged here. One of the nice features is this activity log. So if I want to, if I email the vendor or I have any type of activity like a phone call or a chat, I can log all of that here, and then that history of that interaction with the vendor is forever preserved in kind of a central record. So it's kind of a nice tool if you want to see everything that transpired. The other thing is the vendor compliance as well. And so, you can attach files here. So I have a W-9 attached. Maybe I want a certificate of insurance as well. All of that can be attached to the system. We talked a little bit about this low-code, no-code framework and user-defined fields. So I have one of those set up as just a renewal end date. So maybe there's a renewal for this vendor. I want to select the end date. This was just a user-defined field that I added right out of the box without the need of of a developer. The other thing that I can do is maybe there's data that I want to track for each vendor. So if I go to the attributes tab, you can see this vendor ownership. So maybe I want to track if this was a minority-owned business, right, or women-owned business. I have a checkbox here that I can track, and then I can run a report to show me all the women-owned businesses for every vendor record that I have. The other important thing to note too is that there's lots of typical kind of segregation of duties that come with vendor and vendor maintenance. And so you don't want things like payment settings, to be updated by everyone. You might just want them to be updated by, a key group of folks. So we can certainly do that. The security roles in Acumatica go down to the field. And so for lots of clients, it's very common that we'll have, a smaller group of folks who can actually edit things like, the payment method or the address. And then most of the group can actually do, see the vendor record. Maybe they can update the contact, but they can't update the payment information. So maybe we make these fields just view only to them as well. So that's available in the system as well. All right, so let's show kind of what it takes to get a bill in the system. So if I go to payables and incoming documents, what this feature does is I can create a bill manually, but I can also create it from what's called OCR technology. So what does this do? So this allows me to drag and drop a PDF into the system and then read it as well, and then create the bill. So this is just a box that shows my, a folder on my desktop. I have this bill that I'm going to drag and drop in here. And when I hit recognize, what it's doing is it's going through these fields in the bill, and it's reading them, and it's creating, an AP bill from that PDF. And so what did it do? On the left here, it said, okay, it found the vendor as BC Phillips Company, because it read it right here. It found the date, it found the vendor reference number, and then it found the amount as well. So the 4830, and then it found the line for office supplies. And so this allows you to, again, drag and drop a PDF, screen scrape it. And if this all looks good, I can hit save and continue. And now it's in the process of actually creating that bill. And so I can take a peek at this bill. I know I need to add things like the project really quick. I can hit save. And so now it just created that bill from the PDF, and you see this attachment up here. It actually attached that file. So what I'm going to do is remove this from hold and hit save. And so as soon as I did that, you'll notice that it now is in pending approval. And if I look at the bottom here under approvals, it's routed to Layla, for approval. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and actually show you on the mobile app how to approve. All right. Let's start my broadcast. Okay, so you are seeing my personal iPhone here. Okay, let's get this out of the way. There we go. All right, so here's my Acumatica app. So we mentioned before, to use Acumatica through the app, all you have to do is download the app from the App Store. You can have Android or Apple, both work equally as well. And so this is showing my personalized view of Layla, right? So I'm logged in as Layla. I can change the KPIs here. So it looks like I have some late purchase orders. I have some bills to pay. So kind of, if I want to change these, I can say edit list. Maybe I don't want to see AR overdue anymore. I can just delete that and hit done. And now I just see two appear. And so I can really, again, curate similar to the UI that you saw on the desktop. I can curate my view in my mobile app as well. So, that slide where you saw the technology stack, all of the modules and industry editions across the system are available here in the mobile app. I just have a few laid out just for Layla. So I'm going to go to time and expenses, and I'm going to find my approvals page. And so I can see here that this is the bill that we just created. This was for BC Phillips. And now I can see, okay, here's the date. Here's everything related to it. And if I go to files here, what's that the bill? Let's find that bill number really quick. Here we go. It's the 4,830. There we go. That's right bill. Okay, for BC Phillips, if I want to see the details in there, I can just click on the details and see, okay, this was for office supplies. I can go back, and then this files button on the bottom left really lets me see, oh, here's a sample bill, and I can actually view that PDF in the mobile app as well if I wanted to. All right, if I'm ready, here we go. Here's that bill. So here's the bill that we just brought in through that OCR technology. If I'm ready to approve, I can just hit approve. And now it will obviously approve through the system and come out of my queue. All right, so let's stop this broadcast. And we'll go back into the system and let you see kind of what this looks like. All right. Okay, so at this point, Layla approved that bill. So again, we can have, here we go. And it's shown as approved. And now that it's approved, I can release that bill. So this was a pretty easy approval map. So we can create approval maps for things like journal entries, AP bills, the payment of that AP bill. We can have another approval on that component as well. Cash transactions. So throughout the entire system, the ability to route for approval is set up, and you can approve, set up approvals by different types of hierarchies as well. So it can be by dollar amount, by the department that it's coded to. So any field within the bill or the transaction or related to that is what the variables are that we can code that approval map to. Okay, so the last component that we're going to go through is some automation that's throughout the system, but specifically related to AR. So I'll show you some business events. So this tool really takes the generic inquiry that you saw in that first kind of introduction in the dashboard and add some automation on top of that. So in this example, I want to send an email if the invoice is due tomorrow and another one if it's due in 15 days and it's not yet paid. So let's take a peek at this. So this event is triggered by a schedule. I can also trigger it by a record change. So for example, if the transaction changed status, that can be a trigger. But it's looking at this, this screen name, which is this generic inquiry. And it's basically saying, okay, so this is the AR invoice. When's the due date? When the due date is less than today, this will be triggered. So this kind of tells me all of the criteria by which this will be triggered. So I can just have this run on a schedule, and anytime any invoice meets that criteria, it will be run. The subscriber or what's being run are these different options, right? So I can run things like a text message, an email notification, which is this example. I can send a mobile push notification. I can have a task created. And what this one is doing is it's obviously sending an email notification to that customer. And this is what it's sending. So the subscriber ID is really this email template. And I can dynamically put data in there. So I can say, okay, dear customer, and it'll find that customer account and we'll say exactly what the invoice number is, the due date, the balance, and all of that is already set up and will come in through the email. You can also add visuals and images to this as well. So you can have, maybe your marketing department wants to change the way that the look and feel of this email. All of that's available as well. There's HTML available, and then you can also do things like insert images and such if you want to make it look and feel more like your company. Okay, so just to get the idea, there's lots of types of business events that we can do. You might have thought, okay, when Layla has a new bill to approve, how does she know that it needs to be approved? Well, we use the same type of business event to do that. So in this example, purchase order waiting approval, same type of idea, right? So in this example, we're not triggering by a schedule, we're triggering by a record change. So as soon as that order goes into pending approval, now we'll send an email to say, hey, there's a PO awaiting your approval. And in this example, you can see some of those images that we talked about, right? And so this email would be sent to Layla for approval. So pretty robust tool that we can kind of better automate, streamline activity. You can approve bills within the system. We'll end with, we'll end with kind of what the next steps are. So if you want to learn more or kind of talk about, okay, well, what would it take to, implement Acumatica? What kind of modules does it have? You want to see maybe a deeper demo? Our next step certainly would be, let's meet. So reach out to me. Here's my email, Andrea Hayes at SVA.com. Also, you might know Tanya as well, who's on the call. Feel free to email either one of us. And we can kind of talk through, okay, this is what Acumatica looks like. Sounds like what you might need, what you might want or expect in terms of implementation. We can walk through all of those. And then maybe set up another kind of deeper demo if that'd be helpful. The next thing after that, if all of that looks good, is we would finalize the scope and kick off the project. Kind of basic financial implementations, so finance, banking, accounts payable, accounts receivable. We can generally do those in about 6 to 8 weeks. So we go through a requirements process, we go through some training and piloting. Well, we can do all of the process of converting your data. So from pulling it from your old system, helping you transform it, validating that with you, loading it into Acumatica. Our team can help you with all of that or take ownership over that, whatever your preference is. So we can make these pretty as painless as possible for you. After implementation, we kind of go through a period of deeper support, maybe heavier support, if that's what you're looking for. And then long term, we're your partner to help you upgrade, whether if you want to do it on a schedule, semi-annual or annual software updates, or if you want to choose when you upgrade. We have a whole process plan and laid out for that. We also have SVA, we have monthly webinars, so specifically geared towards Acumatica customers. So we'll go through things like, how to optimize the software. So the last webinar that we had was how to do Excel analyses in, from data in Acumatica using a tool called Velixio. We also have an ongoing support team as well. And so, we have this kind of whole package that as a customer in Acumatica, again, you're supported with those webinars and ongoing support, and then we make sure that you're upgraded and maintained on the current software. All right, so we will email these slides out to you. Thank you for attending this webinar. We appreciate your time.